Hi and welcome to another Watch Geek video. Today we get to review a very beautiful and very unusual vintage Seiko, the Suwa made 5626-7090. This watch was produced in the early 70s and is yet another piece made during what I like to call the golden era of Seiko design. Although the majority of attention goes to the King and Grand Seiko models of that era, there are gems like this one that, despite lacking the JS and KS badges, still deserve a second look. One such model is this one, as it has more than a few interesting features. First, the case. Although it is very classical in size for that time, with a 36mm diameter and 42mm lug-to-lug, and the shape is rather dull compared to something like my King Seiko 45, as it lacks any sharp edges, it does have a few details that make it cool. The caseback. It's not removable, as this is a monocoque case like the one found on the current Marine Master. That means that servicing is done through the front crystal. But here's the cool part. The actual adjustment of the movement can be done without removing it from the case at all. The regulation is done via a little opening at the 6 o'clock lug spacing. There is a little screw that is actually a cap that, once removed, reveals another, smaller screw that is connected to the balance regulator, allowing you to regulate the watch yourself. And finally, there's a golden medallion on the caseback that was usually reserved for King and Grand Seiko models. It is put on this model as a staple of precision, in a way, which is confirmed with the Seiko chronometer inscription. That precision comes from the movement used, which is the second interesting feature of this watch. The movement powering it is caliber 56, made by Suwa and used to power King Seiko models of the era. Although Suwa was mostly in charge of making Grand Seikos, the King Seiko 56 was designed and made entirely by them. The movement beats away at 28,800 bph, striking the fine balance between a high beat and high durability. These were also the first movements made using automated production, giving them a higher quality consistency compared to the traditionally made caliber 45. The movement is automatic and features both hacking and hand winding. All in all, it is a very reliable and very durable movement, but it does have one flaw. The Quickset date function is activated using a gear made of plastic, which was a pretty new material in watchmaking back then. It was considered advanced technology, since plastic is a self-lubricating material. But sadly, it has turned into a problem as it becomes brittle with age, snapping the gears and making the Quickset function fail. Now, just to make things completely clear, the date function itself will still work, and you can even set it in the conventional way, by spinning the hands 2 full rotations. So the only thing you lose is the Quickset. If that bothers you, there are companies that make a replacement gear. And I know a company in Australia was actually trying to make a metal replacement that solves the problem permanently. They even have their own YouTube channel called Vintage Time Australia, if you want to check them out or ask them about the part. And finally, we move to my favorite part of this watch, which is the dial. Seiko originally named it a Florentine dial, which is a nice, elegant name. But honestly, even if they called it a piece of crap, I wouldn't care, as it is one of the most beautiful dials I have seen in my life. With golden wire structure, it is very similar to the Grand Seiko Observatory Chronometer, but the wires are much thinner and finer, making them invisible to the naked eye, while creating this playful change in the shade of gold as you move the watch around. It reminds me of the current winter edition of the limited Grand Seiko 4 Seasons collection. It is truly breathtaking and goes well with the thin applied markers and these classical long hands. This is also one of the rare Seiko dials that has the inscription "Officially Certified Chronometer" on it, as the Swiss raised their voice and banned Seiko from using it, which resulted in the birth of Seiko's own chronometer standard that was even tighter, which they called Grand Seiko Standard, that is in use even today. So this watch is a unique and very handsome piece of Seiko history that, thanks to some rare details and this breathtaking dial, is a serious contender for a place in my collection. I'm personally not a big fan of gold-plated watches, but luckily there is a stainless steel version with a silver dial, which is what I would go for if I decide to get one. The rarity does have its price, so these are quite expensive, especially given the fact that they lack the more popular GS and KS branding. But despite the high price, I do feel they're worth it. Well, that's it when it comes to this week's review, so thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed and found it useful. If you did, please like and subscribe, and until the next video, bye.